The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NBA.
The Timberwolves' 24-point win in Game 2 over the Warriors.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast.
The Timberwolves ultimately win this game by 24 points. And, you know, if you're just box score watching, it looks like it's a wire-to-wire win. They were up 14 at the end of the first quarter. They were up 17 at halftime. But Golden State got it down to 7 in the third quarter. And it actually didn't feel like a super dominant Timberwolves performance despite the score. It was a bit more of a slog than that. And at the same time, I still feel pretty good about the Wolves coming out of this game. And sure, knowing that Steph Curry is not going to play in at least the next two games certainly helps that feeling. But the Timberwolves have had a handful of guys that have really struggled of late that played a lot better in this game, and especially in the second half. And so I like the fact that that is the taste in the mouths of those Wolves players, that they played well as the Wolves got this lead from 7 back up to 15, back up to 18, and then ultimately to 24 after garbage time was all said and done. I just think that there's real positivity to take from this one. I want to talk about what happened at the start of the game first. Minnesota came out on just a crazy run to open the game, and that they really never looked back. I mean, they never trailed. This is a wire-to-wire win for the Wolves. They were up 13-0 before the Warriors scored. They didn't score until the 7:04 mark of the first quarter, and that was off of a second chance opportunity, a kick out for an open Jimmy Butler line drive three, as Jimmy likes to shoot his three-point attempts. So nearly 5 minutes without a point for Golden State. Minnesota's defense was really, really good early, and obviously a Stephless Warriors team is going to be a toothless offense. That is the case. That's true. They scored 93 points. But still, holding an NBA team scoreless for 5 minutes is not an easy thing to do. And I thought Minnesota actually swarmed the ball really well. They rotated well. It might not have been to the level of what Golden State's game one defense was, but it was certainly better than what we've seen. It was certainly better than Golden State on this night, and better than what we've seen the Wolves do, at any other point in this series. That early first quarter, or I should say in this series, obviously, but even in some of that Lakers series, this looked like the Wolves defense we've been waiting for early in the game. The perimeter defense was good, solid switches, solid competitiveness, fighting through screens at times as well. We saw Rudy kind of lock down the paint, and it was I thought a bit of a subpar Rudy Gobert game, but and he didn't get credit with any blocks. I don't know how he didn't get credit with any blocks. I know he blocked at least a couple shots, at least got a piece of a couple of shots. He altered several shots. His presence really made a difference early in this game. And again, credit the Timberwolves on the perimeter. And I thought Stan Van Gundy made a important, albeit obvious point that with those Steph Curry on the floor, that means that Jaden McDaniels can guard Jimmy Butler. You don't have to have Ant guard Jimmy Butler. You don't have to, put Julius Randle and Jimmy Butler. Like it. He's the only guy you got to worry about. Buddy Hield, obviously, and I talked about this on yesterday's show, you can't let him go crazy, and he got free for a couple shots. He hit the three to drop the lead to 7 points in the third quarter. But for the most part, you're not worried about Buddy beating you off the dribble. You're not worried about Buddy. He was 1 of 5 on 2-point shots in this game. I think only one of his threes was off the dribble and not a catch and shoot three. You just got to chase him around screens and treat him, as I said yesterday on the show, basically Steph Curry ultra light, but still treat him like he's Steph Curry. The on-ball defense, you're worried about Jimmy. Now, Jimmy Butler didn't look like he was terribly interested in scoring in this game. I don't know how he ended up with 17 points on 13 shots, because he really looked kind of disinterested, especially I think he had 3 points at halftime, maybe 5 points. He looked disinterested in trying to be the focal point of the offense and more concerned with distributing, but yet he ended up with just 4 assists and 2 turnovers in this game. It was a pretty pedestrian Jimmy Butler game, and Jaden bothered him early. I think maybe Jaden did block a shot off Jimmy in the post early in the game. Maybe that spooked him, the length of Jaden McDaniels, and Jimmy doesn't want to be physical like he used to be in his younger days. And he just didn't put forth the effort offensively for most of the game. And again, credit to Jaden McDaniels for that. I mean, Jaden was awesome. So anyway, the start of the game, really great for Minnesota. They go up 13-0 immediately. They expand the lead from 13 points to 17 points. They go up 29-12. Draymond hits a three just before the end of the quarter. The Wolves are up by 14 at the end of the first. And then in the second quarter, the offense stagnated a bit. I didn't think the defense was quite as locked in defensively. The bench was quite as locked in defensively as the starters were for Minnesota. And it took a minute. Nikhil actually, I thought, really had a rough first half. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, I had in my duds column. I thought he was having a horrific game. And then lo and behold, he ends up being really good in the second half. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But like the bench was not great in the second quarter. Minnesota still expanded the lead by 3. They're up by 17 at halftime. But it didn't feel like that. And of course, Anthony Edwards falls in a fast break opportunity, gets his ankle stepped on in the second quarter, goes to the locker room with like 6 minutes to play in the quarter. And it looked semi-serious, at least the lack of weight he was putting on it walking back to the locker room. But if you're and I know Chris Finch said after the game he was genuinely worried about it. But Timberwolves fans, like, I know Wolves fans, their heart's in their throat when this happens. But I mean this. The Anthony Edwards phenomenon is so much like Kevin Garnett, where it's like he's bionic in these situations. I remember so many times with KG where he would roll his ankle and it seems like he's going to be out for an extended period of time. And he literally, you'd see him like tightening his shoelace. He wouldn't even go back to the locker room a lot of times. And he would just be back and he'd be just fine. And Ant usually goes back to the locker room and then he's back and he's just fine. Very rarely is Ant just out for the game. And I had a feeling he'd be fine after halftime, and he was. It took him a minute to get going offensively in the second half, and he was deferring more, I think, as he was getting back into the flow of the game. He missed a couple defensive assignments early in the third quarter. But like midway through the third on, Ant was awesome. And he played the whole third quarter and the first part of the fourth quarter before he took a short break in the middle of the fourth. Finch switched up the substitution pattern there a little bit after he only played half the second quarter, and the Wolves were trying to put the game away. And after that kind of midway point of the third, Ant was really, really good. And I thought it was the defense for Minnesota that kept them in the game, like late first quarter through the second quarter, through the Ant injury. And then again, early third, when Ant was not doing much and the Wolves defense kind of went away again, it got down to a 7-point game. The offense was sloppy. The transition offense was really bad for Minnesota. And then things kind of clicked in the third quarter and it felt like they were going to be all right. And they were. Again, I don't look at this and be like, oh man, 24-point win, like easy. No, that's not what this was. In fact, they struggled more than they should have early in the game. And despite the 17-point lead at halftime, it took a minute to really feel comfortable and to really feel like the Wolves are going to hold on and win this game, and credit them for the response after the Warriors push back. It helps that the Warriors just don't have any firepower. They don't have anybody to run the offense. If Draymond's not running the offense with no Steph, who's running the offense? There's no true point guard in the on the roster really for Golden State. So that's an issue for them.
Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you'll have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. And you can create cost-effective growth for your company instead of hiring full-time. Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
The Warriors were down 13-0 by the time a lot of fans probably turned on this game. They trail wire to wire, 117-93 Minnesota Timberwolves win. I put in the caption on the show, Warriors destroyed, and I've already had 3 people reach out and say, destroyed's a little bit of a stretch. I don't know. You trailed wire to wire. You got beat by 24 points in the game, and 90% of your team did not show up. Honestly, use the words embarrassing for much of the first half, but we'll kind of meander through this thing and figure out whether the Warriors were destroyed or not destroyed. Hudson Klauke, the co-host and a friend of the program on today's show, to break this thing down. Hudson, what do you say I give you the recap in 15 seconds? Sound good? Good to see you, by the way.
Absolutely. Let's hear it, man. Fire it away.
All right, Wolves started 13-0. They never looked back. Jonathan Kuminga came in, brought the Warriors to within 7 in the third with unbelievable play. Jimmy Butler was passive. Trace Jackson-Davis looked good. Unfortunately, outside of JK and TJD, everyone stunk. That is your recap. Anthony Edwards' ankle almost became a story, but this was a beatdown that doesn't need to be recapped any further from me. I want to get to the big headlines from this game, prepare you for game 3. But for you tuning into this game, I'll give you more than 15 seconds to react to what we just saw unfold in the Twin Cities.
I mean, look, it's a scheduled loss, right? You stole one in game 1 without Steph Curry essentially for, most of that game. You didn't expect to win this game if you're the Golden State Warriors. I wish I saw more aggressiveness from Jimmy Butler. I just felt like he was so passive. He had 13 shot attempts. He didn't have a bad game, but I mean, hell, when Steph Curry's not on the floor, man, you need to be way more assertive. And then you just saw, per second I was texting you. I'm like, am I watching a G League game? We had a Kevin Knox appearance. Trace Jackson-Davis was in there, and he had some good minutes. So, I mean, it was a lot of guys. Pat Spencer was, he tried to, which I thought was hilarious. He got in for 10 seconds and tried to dunk on McDaniels and Gobert. He played a horrific game.
He was
bad.
I
love the energy that he came in there with. But yeah, I mean, listen, you got one game, you split the series on the road. You take what you can, and then you just got to hope you can figure it out back home.
That's a nice hat, by the way, for a guy from Cincinnati, Ohio, like Hudson is, to be repping the Cal Bears and the Berkeley hat tonight. That's good stuff. You know the audience,
Yeah,
it's a nice hat. I've been saying it takes a village. That's kind of been like my storyline, honestly, the entire season, because the Warriors role players are so huge. You know what you're going to get from the top half, or not in the top half, but the top couple of this roster. But it truly does take a village with this team, because Kerr went with 14 guys in the first half. He experimented with literally everyone, but 3 key players I want to dissect. And I've been talking about these 3 lifting up your ceiling or being the reason why you're not able to elevate your game. They're huge. It's Brandon Podziemski. It's Moses Moody. It's Jonathan Kuminga. Your team and success is, obviously it's determined on Steph Curry getting back from this hamstring strain. That's everything. You're going nowhere without Steph at the end of the day. But aside from that, like, these 3 guys need to be key contributors. We'll start with the one that was a huge contributor tonight. It was Jonathan Kuminga. I had a feeling it was going to be one of those games. Don't believe me? You listened to the show yesterday, faithful. The everydayers that listen to Locked On Warriors. You remember me saying this. This is one of those games, man, where I would not be shocked with how crazy this season has gone if all of a sudden the narrative shifted to Jonathan Kuminga's back, he can score, and he puts up like a 15, 20-point game. Am I crazy saying that? I was not crazy. Forget 15, 20-point game. He went for, I guess I was right in the middle. He went for 18 in 26 minutes. Should have gotten more. He was outstanding. 8 of 11 from the floor. Hit his first 7 shots. At one point in the game, Trace Jackson-Davis and Jonathan Kuminga were combined 8 for 8. The rest of the roster was 7 for 30. The first notion that, or I guess the first reaction that I got from Kuminga in this game was the play where Dante DiVincenzo out-hustled him for an offensive rebound. Then they hit a 3. Steve Kerr yanks him immediately. And a lot of times this season, that's it, right? Steph Curry's on the floor. That's it for Jonathan Kuminga. We've seen enough. And honestly, I love Matt Kolsky, a co-host on this show, but thank God he's not on the program today, because it would have been a completely different angle than I'm going to take this thing. He would have gone with the fact of, well, if you play him more, this is what happens. And it's hard to argue tonight that notion, considering what he was able to do when he came back into the game. He got his confidence back, man. He outplayed Butler. He was hitting the mid-range, the turnarounds. The defensive pressure was outstanding. He was hustling like it was a game 7. He was confident, which is the biggest thing with him. I don't see how you can take him out of the rotation these next 2 games. I don't think Steve Kerr's that dumb. I just think he's got to be a mainstay these next couple games before you reevaluate things, because what you saw from him tonight proves that unlike Moses Moody, he's not entirely broken.
If you want to look at silver linings of this whole thing, is that, the Kuminga coming out party. Like, I thought that Steve Kerr may have just killed the guy's confidence completely. Wasn't the case. I mean, listen, it was low pressure, low stakes in this particular game. It didn't, I don't think Steve Kerr thought they were going to win this game. He went out there and he balled out, and you're going to need him desperately. And the NBA is all about, getting opportunities. I don't know if you can look back and say, oh, Kuminga should have been getting X amount of minutes now that, we saw him play tonight. Listen, it's one game, but he clearly is one of the few guys that can create his own offense without Steph Curry on the floor. We saw that time and time again. I mean, the amount of shot clock violations. I mean, poor Moses Moody, man, because Butler was just giving him the ball with 2 seconds left. He airballed like 3 in a row. I was like, God, like he didn't want to take that shot. Moses Moody got like 3 of those, I think. But Kuminga needs to play significant amount of minutes for the offense to be able to put the ball in the basket. He's one of the few guys. It's like him and Jimmy Butler that are real creators. Pods can get there too. But yeah, Kuminga is going to have to be a staple if they want to be able to, get through this Steph Curry injury.
I received a comment yesterday on the show that was because I said, I think Kuminga is going to have a big role in this game. And someone said, why would Kuminga want to go out there and ball? Why would his agent want him to do anything? Steve Kerr's been jerking him around for so long. And my response was, dude, when your number's called in a playoff game with a huge bag on the line, like tonight was a prime example. He just earned himself $1 million, $2 million, whatever it was tonight, because you see that talent and you're like, it's still there. And granted, it's just been such a weird season, man. There was a press conference back in, I don't know if it was January, it was December, it was February, it was the winter. Everything blends together at this point in the season when you've gone through so much. But there was a press conference where Steve Kerr and Draymond Green and maybe even Curry too said, like, we're handing this guy the keys. Draymond went to the bench and it was like, it's Jonathan Kuminga's time to shine. And he shined for a little bit. And then he had that devastating ankle injury that kept him out for a couple weeks to be reevaluated. Then it turned into a couple months. It felt like came back to the fold. All of a sudden you got this new toy in Jimmy Butler and was never really able to work him in completely. And you were winning games. And that's the argument that I make is like, when you're winning games, if it's not broken, you don't necessarily try to fix it. You gave him the 7-8 minutes here and there. And a lot of times during those 7-8 minutes, he was just whatever. So, okay. Steve Kerr knew tonight that Kuminga was going to have to play some big minutes in order for the team to hang around in this game. And he single-handedly brought the Warriors back to within 7. I mean, there was a moment there, especially when Anthony Edwards went down with the ankle injury, where it's like, Jonathan Kuminga may be the best player on this floor. What do you think, as someone that doesn't get into this storyline of Kerr and Anthony Lamb is weaved into this thing from like 3 years ago? We're still talking about that. As someone that just watches basketball and wears the Cal Golden Bears hat, not really affected by any of this aside from a love for the game. Like, what do you think of Kuminga really?
He's a guy with a lot of talent. He's got a high ceiling. Like I've watched many Warriors games where I'm like, he doesn't have it. He's very inconsistent, but you see, sparks here and there. Like I don't know if he has that for a full 82 game season, but especially when you need to lean on scoring, he's a great guy to have in your arsenal. With Jonathan Kuminga coming in, a lot of teams don't have that. A guy that has a ceiling that can put up 20, 25 in a given night. It's just a matter of him being more consistent. But at this point, Steve Kerr doesn't have many options. If Steph Curry's going to be out for, multiple games,
he has plenty of options. He has 14. We saw tonight. He has 14 of them. A lot of them just stink. Well,
those were, those were some tough minutes for those guys. I'll say that right now. Our guy Pat Spencer, I know we mentioned him, but holy hell, that was tough. That was tough to watch. So. Yeah, it's tough to listen. The Warriors were awesome once they acquired. I don't know the exact. You probably have off the top of your head what their record was. They were awesome. So it's hard to yell at Steve Kerr.
Something. Yeah,
it's hard to yell at Steve Kerr and say, "Hey, you should have had Kuminga in the mix," right? Like they were playing well. They just beat the 2 seed. It was working out. Right now, things change drastically when your best player gets injured, and Kuminga's got to come in and he's got to continue to do this if they want to stick around in this series before Steph Curry gets back.
Yeah, it's like going back to that commenter of what I said. Like, why would he want to go in there and try to fix this thing in Golden State? It's over, whatever it may be. Ever heard of Wally Pipp? Ever heard of Wally Pipp, Houdini?
Sure, I sure have.
You know Wally Pipp. That's all it takes, man. Something changes. You come in, you get your moment to shine, and you put up 18 points in 26 minutes, and it would be hard to think that Jonathan Kuminga is not playing 30 plus significant minutes in the next game. And quite frankly, it's hard to think that Trace Jackson Davis won't get serious burn with some of the minutes that he gave. 19, 6 for 6 on the floor, 6 rebounds. He had 15 in the game, including an unbelievable lob. I mean, I was like, Trace, go up there and throw it down, big fella.
No, he was awesome. He was awesome. But as far as the comment of like Kuminga, he doesn't want to go in the game, right? Like he's trying to burn this thing down. Kuminga doesn't have that type of clout. He can't say, hey, coach, I don't want to play. Like he hasn't proven himself to that extent. He's not Dame Lillard. It's not like we're talking about Tyrese Halliburton saying I'm done with the organization. He needs to prove himself for the next team if he ends up on another team. So he's always going to take that opportunity. And he seems like the type of kid that thrives in that scenario. And we saw it tonight. Trace Jackson Davis, man, I thought I was watching him in Indiana. He played a hell of a game.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation when someone like Trace and Kuminga, who have showed their moments, Kuminga more than Trace, obviously, get relegated to the bench and don't really get an opportunity to shine. But it can change quickly. And Steve Kerr has shown at all times, like we saw it with Pat Spencer tonight in the game prior, like he doesn't care who you are. If you're playing well, he will go to you. So we'll see how that looks in the next contest.
Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on Amazon Fire TV. Plus, with 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies, TV episodes, and more from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen.
The clutch problems that the Celtics are having and how Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown should react. The Celtics have clutch problems. No doubt about that. They struggle sometimes, a lot of times here. I think the number, I don't have it right in front of me, it's minus 26 this season now in the last 5 minutes of close games. I can't shake the feeling that this season, the habits of the earlier part of the regular season are starting to seep into the playoffs here. Remember last year where the Celtics found ways to close out games. They found ways to win. They found ways to pile up those wins. And even though they won 60 games this year, and I thought like they had turned a corner and flipped the switch and all that stuff, there was a lot of concern in December and January about what the clutch numbers looked like. And I didn't make much of it. I thought they were going to be able to figure it out. It looked like they had figured it out. And, in that first game, again, the first series against Orlando, they won that in 5. They were able to make the plays when they needed to. But, Orlando was not a great offensive team, and the Knicks are. And the Knicks are able to make mistakes into points. They turn mistakes that the Celtics are making into points. And the clutch issue stems from the Celtics' lack of, we talk about poise. The Celtics are impacted by their misses. The Al Horford quote from before, where he says, I was thinking about these misses. The clutch mentality is not about, oh God, we gotta, oh my, we're really hemorrhaging points here. It's about, all right, we scored, they scored, we made a mistake, no problem. Let's come down, let's run our stuff. Let's run our stuff, and let's just be us. The clutch mentality is coming down, forgetting about what just happened, not reacting to just what just happened. The Celtics are in this pattern of, okay, he's not doing this, I have to do it. Jason and Jaylen are starting to get into trouble like they did 2 years ago. Jason trying to take some of these turnaround jumpers. I've seen him kind of force things. I also think they're tired. There's also the fatigue factor is setting in at the end of these games. The physicality has jumped. The Celtics are not reacting to it particularly great. It's wearing them down. And late in the game, I think they're losing their legs. Tatum is taking these turnaround fadeaways. He's over-rotating. You can see him kind of like swinging his body around, over-rotating, releasing the ball. He's kind of he finds himself short. He finds himself off. It's just not. It's not a fluid shot. It's not a turn, square, fade to create a little bit of space so you can get that look off. A fadeaway is fine. I have no problem with these guys fading away. I've been saying it. Jason Tatum post fadeaway is like the Dirk Nowitzki shot. That's a money shot for him. That has to be the shot that he makes to finish games off. If he had that in his bag, Paul Pierce style, I said this on yesterday's podcast. If he had that Paul Pierce, get to my spot, turn, fade, that's money. You need that in your bag. That's where you shut down comebacks. They don't have a go-to. Jason Tatum, for all of his greatness, does not have the go-to shot. That one thing where you're like, okay, even like Chris Paul, you know when Chris Paul got into that mid-range, you're like, that's money. Certain guys have these shots. It's Kevin Durant. Guys have these kind of like signatures, a spot on the floor where you're like, I'm not going to go there all the time, but when we need a bucket, I can live there for 4 or 5 possessions. And that's where Tatum, I think, needs to take another step. But in these clutch situations, Tatum and Brown especially but the whole Celtics team need to calm down, forget about what just happened, and run a play. And more than that, everybody on the floor needs to be doing something. Tatum is trying to take guys off the dribble. Jalen's trying to take guys off the dribble. The Knicks are sagging off of guys in the shooters who are trying to space. They're playing just far enough away where they can be a deterrent, but they can also get back. And they're trying to kind of toe that line. It's almost like a base runner on first base in baseball, where he's trying to figure out, okay, how far can I go to draw the throw, but still get back and mess with the pitcher. Now, I know there's a pitch, a limit to how many times you can go over now. I'm an old school guy. I don't really pay attention to much baseball anymore. I remember when you used to be able to throw over there all the time and runners used to really get into the pitcher's head. It's not that old school, but it's the same idea of like, I'm going to go this far and you want to pass it, you can try to pass it, but oh no, I'm going to get back over. So how do you combat that? The Celtics don't run as much off-ball action as they should. We've talked about it on this show before. Run your off-ball stuff. Guys need to be doing stuff off the ball. So Tatum has options. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a little pin down, even switching spots, even something as simple as switching spots. So let's just say Tatum's at the top of the key. He's got the switch onto Karl Anthony Towns, and Jaylen Brown is on his right side with Al Horford in the corner. Well, instead of standing there, just go and set a screen and or just do something to like switch places. So you had Josh Hart, who's covering Jaylen Brown, just turns his head a little bit, just turns, and it's like, okay, I got to look this way and get his attention somewhere else. Get him to turn his head, get him to look, get him to flinch. Do something to occupy the minds of the defenders on either side. So Tatum can be like, oh, boom, go. Okay, now I can go, because that half second of turning and being like, switch, is enough time to bust Karl Anthony Towns, which you should be able to do. You can bust past that, whoever you've got at the top of the key, Mitchell Robinson. off-ball action. This is all part of clutch. So get out of your own heads. Get out of your own heads. I'm going to continue this because this is Tatum and Brown stuff. This is Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Getting out of your own heads